Hello, my dear Taurus soul. Have you noticed how the final days of May seem to carry a different kind of stillness, as though something beneath the surface has quietly been preparing to bloom? This is more than another passing moment between seasons. As early June begins unfolding, an important shift is opening around you, and something meaningful is slowly finding its way back into your life. This season feels like a gentle threshold between exhaustion and renewal. Flowing through it is what feels like a double blessing. One arrives through the physical world, through financial relief, support, or something valuable you may have stopped expecting. The other moves through the heart, bringing emotional healing you may not have realized you still needed. So if you are here listening to this video right now, take a slow breath and stay with me for a moment. Your presence here is not random. It feels like divine timing, meeting the version of you that has finally become ready to receive instead of only endure. You did not stumble onto this message by accident. Something deeper has been guiding you quietly toward this season of return. This goes beyond astrology alone. It is about alignment. Taurus, you have carried yourself through difficult seasons with more grace than most people ever realized, continuing to show up even when progress felt painfully slow. Every private prayer, every honest moment, every time you kept moving without recognition, that energy continued building beneath the surface. That is why this video is not simply here to inform you. It is here to remind you that what once felt delayed is beginning to move again. What seemed blocked is slowly opening, and what left your life may now return differently, softer and more healing than before. Right now, pause for a moment and ask yourself honestly, what inside you has changed in order to meet this season? Because Taurus, I truly believe your spirit reached for this before your mind fully understood it. You are not here by coincidence. In many ways, this message exists because your energy has been calling for it. And the signs have already been appearing around you. Repeating numbers, dreams that linger after waking, sudden thoughts of someone crossing your mind for no clear reason. These moments are not meaningless. They are quiet confirmations that something is shifting. So now, I invite you to participate in this moment intentionally. In the comments below, write this affirmation: I am ready to receive the steady blessings unfolding for me this season. You can also share the number that keeps appearing around you lately, whether it is 7, 11, 222, or another number that continues following you. This becomes more than symbolism. It is a way of consciously stepping into alignment instead of only wishing for it. And truly, thank you for being here. Every comment, every like, and every subscription helps this message continue reaching the people who may need it most. Your support becomes part of the energy itself, creating ripples that keep moving outward. So stay with me, Taurus, because what unfolds through the rest of this video carries something deeply meaningful. This season is not asking you to wait endlessly for life to change. It is asking you to recognize what is already beginning to open. As we move deeper into early June, you may finally understand why this transition has been finding its way toward you all along. There is something powerful about the way the world softens between seasons. For Taurus, these final days of May and the opening breath of June feel like an energetic doorway where the old slowly loosens its grip and something long promised begins rising beneath the surface. Astrologically, there is a reason this season feels different. As late May settles into early June, Mercury moves in harmony with Venus in your sign, helping conversations, finances, clarity, and long-awaited answers move forward with less resistance. Mercury governs communication, while Venus reflects value, comfort, and emotional security. Together they begin loosening what once felt delayed, especially around your emotional life and financial stability. At the same time, Jupiter is activating the part of your chart connected to self-worth, material foundations, and growth. When this energy touches your life, It often signals that you are ready to grow into something steadier and more sustainable. What returns now may feel less like repayment and more like restoration, arriving with greater wisdom and grounding than before. And perhaps most importantly, Saturn has recently completed a demanding retrograde cycle in a deeply personal part of your chart. The pressure that once required constant emotional endurance is beginning to ease. Where life once felt restricted, movement slowly becomes possible again. It feels almost like the closing of a long emotional season where every lesson and sacrifice has finally been accounted for. But beyond astrology, this transition between late May and early June carries symbolic meaning too. It marks the space between what exhausted you and what is finally beginning to nourish you again. Like standing in a garden just before summer arrives, the air still carries traces of spring rain, while something beneath the soil quietly reaches toward the light. And this is why we speak about a double blessing during this season, because the shift unfolding around you is not only external. Yes, one blessing may arrive through finances, opportunities, support, or overdue recognition. But the second arrives more softly through emotional healing, self-trust, and the release of burdens your spirit has carried for too long. This moment asks you to soften instead of forcing life forward. Slow your breathing. Rest your hand over your heart and listen to what your body has been trying to tell you beneath the noise. Even a few quiet minutes alone with yourself during this transition can begin changing the way you relate to your future. This is not about proving your worth through constant effort. It is about presence, about becoming more open, more grounded, and more honest with yourself. Taurus, you are not falling behind. There is wisdom in the pace your soul has chosen. You may remember moments in your past when something shifted inside you without explanation. A sudden stillness, a feeling that the world paused long enough for you to hear yourself clearly again. That feeling was real. For some people it feels spiritual. For others, it feels like something greater, moving gently through ordinary life. Most people move too quickly to notice these moments, but that does not mean they are absent. Sometimes guidance arrives softly. Sometimes life changes through whispers instead of disruption. So when I ask whether you have felt something approaching lately, something difficult to explain but impossible to ignore, I mean it sincerely. That subtle pull may be your future slowly moving closer. Taurus, this message is not simply here to predict something for you. It is here to acknowledge how much you have already endured and how much growth has quietly happened beneath the surface. Whether you consider yourself deeply spiritual or simply open-hearted, the invitation remains the same. Trust the timing unfolding around you. Allow yourself to receive what has been trying to return. It is easy to think abundance only arrives through dramatic breakthroughs or sudden luck. But what is moving toward you now carries a different energy. The care, honesty, and intention you once invested into people, work, and dreams did not disappear simply because results took longer than expected. Sometimes life redirects what we ask for, so it can return in a form that truly supports us. And now, as this season unfolds, energy begins moving again. In Tarot, the Six of Pentacles reminds us that reciprocity is part of life's natural rhythm. What you offered sincerely, especially when you expected nothing back, often finds its way home eventually. That return may appear through delayed money, unexpected support, a reopened opportunity, or someone finally recognizing your value after a long silence. And what matters most is not only the material gain itself, but the emotional reminder behind it. Your effort was never wasted, and life still remembers what you gave with an open heart. Life keeps its own quiet record of what has been given, even during seasons when it feels like nothing is returning. The energy of the Star card reminds us that hope is never wasted when it grows from patience and quiet faith. Even when progress seemed invisible, something beneath the surface was still moving. Like roots deep in softened earth after rain, Your effort kept growing long before you could see proof of it. This kind of financial return does not always arrive dramatically. Sometimes it comes through unexpected money, a delayed opportunity circling back, or someone finally honoring a promise after a long silence. What matters most is not only the amount itself, but the reminder that what you gave sincerely was never truly lost. If you have ever thought, if it truly belongs to me, it will return, then you were already practicing trust instead of fear. You were allowing space instead of forcing outcomes. And now the energy around your finances begins loosening again, like water finally moving through dry ground. That is why this season asks you to become more intentional with what you already have. Creating space for saving, growth, and self-care is not only practical for Taurus energy, it is symbolic. It tells life you are ready to receive more with steadiness instead of fear. And remember, financial stress often settles inside the body first. Tight shoulders, restless thoughts, shallow breathing, exhaustion that never fully leaves. These feelings can quietly block the very flow trying to reopen. So pause for a moment. Place your hands over your chest and ask yourself honestly, who would I become if the pressure finally softened? That quiet space is often where healing begins. People sometimes overlook the smaller miracles connected to money or support, but I have seen how deeply one moment of relief can restore hope. I once knew someone who unexpectedly received compensation she had stopped expecting, and what changed her most was not the money itself, but the feeling that her effort had finally been acknowledged. So Taurus, reflect gently on what receiving would actually mean for you. If a financial blessing arrived today, how would it soften your fear, your relationship with stability, your trust in what comes next? This is not fantasy, it is preparation. The energy around you is already shifting, and your response becomes part of what allows that return to fully enter your life. You are not chasing something that was never meant for you. You are opening the door to something already finding its way back. And sometimes, healing arrives just as quietly. Not through dramatic conversations, but through an unexpected exhale, tears that rise suddenly, or memories returning when you least expect them. Taurus, if emotions have felt heavier lately, or someone from your past keeps appearing in dreams, it may not be regression at all. It may be release. What you are feeling is the soft unraveling of something your heart has carried for a very long time. This is the deeper meaning behind the double blessing surrounding this season. Yes, financial restoration may be unfolding around you, but the quieter blessing comes through emotional healing and loosening your grip on pain that no longer needs to define you. And this healing rarely arrives dramatically. It moves more like early summer rain, sinking into dry ground, softening what once felt hardened and exhausted. Little by little, space opens where tension used to live, until some hidden part of you finally understands it is safe to let go. In tarot, the Ace of Cups is often linked to emotional renewal, peace, and clarity overflowing into the heart. But this card also appears during endings, when an old ache is finally acknowledged and slowly allowed to loosen its hold. Real forgiveness begins the moment resentment stops feeling heavier than peace. Taurus, that may be the space you are slowly entering now. Whether the weight comes from a parent, a past relationship, a friendship, or even an older version of yourself you judged too harshly, this season is encouraging your heart to soften instead of brace for more pain. Water often appears around us when emotions shift beneath the surface. If you have noticed more rain lately, dreams filled with rivers or oceans, or a stronger desire to sit quietly near water, your spirit may be asking for cleansing in gentle ways. So again, Taurus, give gentle attention to what your heart still carries. Tonight, sit quietly and write the name of someone who has stayed in your emotional space longer than you wanted them to. Then write one sentence that releases your attachment to carrying that weight. And if even that feels difficult, let the words be softer. Simply write, "I forgive myself for holding this for so long." You may be surprised how quickly energy begins shifting once your inner world no longer feels crowded with unfinished emotion. I have seen this happen many times. One woman I knew struggled financially for years while quietly carrying unresolved pain connected to her father. One evening, she chose to forgive him privately, without reopening old conversations or asking for anything in return. 3 days later, she unexpectedly received money from a former client she had forgotten about. The amount mattered less than what it represented. It felt like life responding to the moment her heart stopped gripping the past so tightly. Because when emotional energy becomes blocked, abundance often struggles to enter fully too. And the truth is, Taurus, you are not being asked to repair every part of your past. You are simply being invited to stop carrying it as though it still defines who you are becoming. That is where the deeper miracle lives. So let me ask you gently, what are you finally ready to set down so you can move into this next season with more peace inside you? Even the smallest moment of release matters. And if it feels right, let your comment become part of that release too. There are seasons in life when nothing looks broken outwardly, yet something inside quietly feels out of alignment. A familiar room suddenly feels heavy. A routine that once comforted you no longer settles your nervous system the same way. For many Taurus souls right now, that feeling is energetic. The urge to refresh your space, spend more time in nature, or move toward a calmer life is not random restlessness. It is your inner compass responding to change already unfolding beneath the surface. Astrologically, this connects deeply to the part of your chart tied to home, emotional safety, and inner stability. When this area becomes activated, subtle shifts begin asking whether your surroundings still reflect who you are becoming. And because Taurus naturally craves comfort and peace, your environment affects you more deeply than you realize. But this is not about escaping your life. It is about rerouting yourself more intentionally inside it. Sometimes energy shifts through very small acts. Rearranging a room, opening windows, changing your bedding, or letting go of objects tied to old emotional seasons can create more movement than expected. You may notice how quickly your nervous system responds once your environment begins feeling lighter. Even a short reset inside your space can feel like your whole body finally exhaling. In numerology, the repeated appearance of 2 and 11 deepens this message even more. The number 2 carries the energy of peace and emotional awareness. Meanwhile, 11 is connected to intuition and the quiet beginning of a new path already revealing itself little by little. If these numbers have been appearing around you lately on clocks, receipts, or in unexpected places, they may mean more than you realize. Sometimes your inner knowing reflects itself through the physical world first, quietly guiding you toward change before your mind fully understands what is unfolding. You do not always need every answer before stepping into something new. Often the signs appear first, and clarity follows later. I have seen this happen in ordinary life many times. Someone clears out a room, lets go of objects tied to the past, moves closer to sunlight, or changes one draining habit. Then slowly, things begin moving again. An email arrives, a conversation finally opens, an opportunity appears where silence once lived. This is not dramatic magic, it is alignment. When you shift the energy around you, your inner world shifts too. And when your energy becomes calmer and more open, life often begins responding differently in return. So if you have been feeling restless lately, even in spaces that once felt comforting, ask yourself gently what your energy is trying to rearrange. Not only inside your home, but inside your habits, emotional patterns, and the way you speak to yourself. You do not need to rebuild your life overnight. This season asks for awareness, not urgency. Sometimes the first step is simply standing quietly in your room and asking, What no longer reflects the person I am becoming? Real change rarely arrives through chaos. Sometimes it begins through the urge to open a window, clear a small corner, spend more time near sunlight, or quietly admit that you are ready for movement again. And in that stillness, something inside you begins shifting before the outer world fully catches up. Taurus, not every transformation requires a dramatic leap. Some seasons ask only for your presence. The most meaningful changes often begin in quiet moments where you stop resisting yourself and start listening more honestly to what your spirit needs. What is unfolding now does not require force. It asks for softness, honesty, and participation. This is not a season for exhausting yourself through constant striving. It is a season for becoming emotionally aligned with what is already trying to enter your life. There is wisdom in small rituals, writing down what you want, whispering, "I'm ready," in the morning light, resting your hand over your chest before the day begins. These moments may seem simple, but intention carries energy, and energy responds most clearly when it feels grounded and steady. You do not need to force your next chapter into existence. You open toward it by becoming emotionally available for what is already approaching. Every time you choose presence over fear, life begins responding to that steadier version of you. The law of attraction is less about perfect positivity and more about clarity. Energy responds to calmness, emotional honesty, and quiet confidence even before certainty arrives. So when you write the words, "I open the door to what I deserve," you are doing more than repeating a phrase. You are setting the emotional tone for what you are ready to welcome. And when that tone becomes steady, life begins feeling receptive again. Think of it like dominoes slowly falling into place. One small act of care creates movement for the next. Drinking water intentionally, stretching before sleep, forgiving yourself for carrying too much for too long. Little by little, momentum builds naturally. What once felt frozen starts softening, not because you forced change, but because you stopped fighting the flow of it. I once heard from a woman who began simply thanking her morning glass of water each day. Within weeks, she felt calmer and more grounded, and soon after, a job opportunity arrived, following months of silence. The shift did not come from the ritual alone. It came from the energy behind it. She stopped living in constant tension and finally allowed herself to receive. That is often how transformation works, Taurus. Not through grand performances, but through presence. And that is why I invite you not just to watch this video, but to participate in it. In the comments below, write the affirmation that feels most honest to your spirit right now. Maybe it is, "I am ready to receive the steady blessings unfolding for me this season." Maybe it is, "I release survival mode and welcome the gentle return meant for me." Whatever speaks to you, say it fully. Your words carry energy, and when spoken honestly, they become part of the unfolding itself. More than anything, Taurus, I want you to understand this clearly. You are not waiting for someone else to rescue you or decide that you are worthy enough to begin. You have always been part of creating the next chapter of your life. Every quiet moment of courage, every time you softened instead of shutting down, became part of that process. Miracles are rarely about proving your worth. They arrive when you become emotionally available for what has already been trying to reach you. So ask yourself honestly, are you willing to open to what is already moving toward you now, exactly as you are? Because your next blessing is not asking you to chase endlessly after it. It is waiting for you to open the door. Sometimes all it takes is one honest breath and the quiet decision to say, "I'm here, I'm ready." The most meaningful shifts begin in stillness. During these final days of May and the beginning of June, Taurus, you are moving through an important energetic transition. This season feels less like pressure and more like life gently reminding you that what you have quietly hoped for may finally be approaching. The emotional clarity, the financial relief, and the sense that something inside you is finally settling instead of constantly surviving are not accidental. This journey was never about waiting for permission to fully live. It was about remembering you were never excluded from the life meant for you. The healing and movement unfolding now are not rewards you must exhaust yourself to earn. They begin arriving when your energy softens enough to receive them. Life responds less to force than to emotional frequency, and the patience and resilience you have carried are finally beginning to echo back toward you. You have endured quietly with more grace than most people realized, and now the pieces begin shifting into place, not through chaos, but through a quieter kind of order that becomes visible once you stop fighting every step of the process. Every difficult chapter shaped this version of you, not to break you, but to open you wider. You did more than survive. You softened, expanded, and became more connected to what truly matters. So as this message continues, carry these questions gently with you. If you truly believed your next breakthrough was already beginning, how would you live differently today? What would you change in the way you protect your peace, care for yourself, or choose where your energy goes? Who would you forgive? What would you finally release? And what part of yourself are you ready to reclaim now that this long waiting season is beginning to loosen its grip? Taurus, this is more than a realization. It is an invitation to stop dimming your readiness and begin participating more fully in the life already unfolding around you. And you do that through small, gentle choices that remind your spirit movement is already happening. Take a slow breath with me now. Let this settle inside you. And if you feel called, leave one of these affirmations in the comments below, or write your own in whatever words feel honest to you. I am ready to receive the steady blessings unfolding for me this season. What is meant for me is finally taking root. I release survival mode and welcome the gentle return meant for me. I open the door to what I deserve. And if this message touched something inside you, consider liking the video, subscribing, or sharing it with someone who may need these words too. Every comment and every moment of connection helps this message continue reaching the people meant to hear it. Because you are not simply watching from a distance, you are part of something larger than you realize. You are proof of what can happen when patience meets alignment and softness meets strength. And from this moment forward, you are no longer standing outside your healing, waiting for it to arrive someday. You are already walking inside it, one steady breath at a time,